Hey guys, welcome to the Electron Academy. My name is Hussein and I'm going to be your instructor for this Python series. So this is the second video in our series. Well, the second video of our setup videos. The first one was for Windows and the second one is for Mac OS. So anyone who doesn't use Windows and uses Mac OS instead, this is the tutorial for that person. So yeah, let's just get into it. So first of all, let's go ahead and install Python over here. Now, Python is the language we're going to be doing for our first tutorial series, but the thing is that Python itself, like what is this? Is this just going to download Python or something? What's actually going to happen? So first of all, what this is going to download is it's going to download a Python shell. Now what is that? A Python shell, or a programming language shell, is basically a place where you can execute Python code, like small Python code, and by executing that Python code you can also see its output right after you press enter. So let's say I wanted to print this like one line, and if I printed it out, as soon as I pressed enter, it would print it out right after I wrote it. But in a normal Python file, you create all the code first and it executes all together as well. So you can see that's a little different. In this compiler that we're going to install over here, this shell, every line is going to be executed individually, and with a normal Python file, it's going to be executed together. So enough of that introduction, let's get into it. So let's go into downloads over here, and one thing I really need to point out: the current version of Mac OS I'm using is very old. I'm using capitan, which is the 2015 version. So if you have a newer version, then what you can do instead is go to downloads, and then it'll automatically show up that you have a Mac OS, and then you can just click on this button over here and it'll download. But in case you don't, what you have to do is click on Mac OS X over here, because I have an older version. And over here there's a list of a lot of versions, definitely, for Mac OS over here, and you can see that they have different specifications as well, and some other stuff. So the thing is over here that Mac OS itself has multiple versions for in software, and many softwares usually work with only the latest version. So I'm just gonna search Mac OS 10.11 Python, and if I search that, it'll show different releases for Python over here, right? But at the same time, it's also showing tons of stuff to download it on older versions. So in case when you go over here and you don't know which version you're supposed to install specifically, then I recommend just going through, just searching something like this and going through the results, because you'll probably find one that fits pretty much perfectly. Okay, so that's my recommendation to you guys. And right now, since I know that this was released in 2015, I'm gonna be a little on the safe side and download a slightly older version of Python over here, not the latest one. So over here you can see that we have two columns. So these are stable releases and these are pre-releases. I recommend you download all the stable releases if you want to download it, and not any pre-releases, because that may cause some issues because they have bugs in them that haven't been solved. So I recommend you install the 2015 version. And over here you can see that there's tons of versions over here. I'm personally going to choose Python 3.5.0, but again, if you have the latest version, you can just download the latest version directly, 3.8.5. Otherwise, again, it's up to you. So this is the 3.5 version over here. It shows a few more details about it, and then over here there are file options, so you can just pick the file you want and downloading it. And okay, over here you can see that this is you can download this version with Mac OS 10.5 and later. So the Mac version is also showed over here. So if you want to go through like each version singularly and just want to find it out, you can do that too. Otherwise, you can just search it online, and hopefully you'll get some results somewhere about which version of Python suits your version of Mac OS best. So I'm just gonna download this version. I know it's super old, but it'll basically work the same. There aren't many different things about Python 3, like the latest version of Python 3 and older versions, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Anyways, guys, so let me just quickly download one of these versions. Okay, I recommend you that if you have a 64-bit installer, then you install this version. But in case you don't know, or in case you're sure that it works with i386 or PPC, you can download this version over here. But again, I recommend you install the 64-bit version. Okay. So I'm just gonna open that. It should probably start downloading over here. It says Python. You can't see that at the top, but okay. I'm downloading the package right now. It's downloading over here, and I'm gonna take you through this whole installation. We're gonna be installing Visual Studio Code next. So, alright, we have Python PKG, and okay, I'm gonna bring this on this screen over here because you can actually see what's going on. I have two screens on this Mac over here. So let me go back here, and okay, you should be able to see what's going on right now. And alright, so I'm gonna minimize this, and you can see this over here. So let's click on continue, and then after that, yeah, you can read this if you like, but I'm just gonna click on continue. Alright, then after that, there's a history and license. Again, same thing. Click on continue, click on agree, and it'll tell you how much space you want, and you can customize where you want to install it and stuff. So install. I'm just gonna write my password real quick, and it's doing the installation, and it should be done pretty soon now. It's running package scripts. Cheyenne, you can cut this part out if you want to, because this is probably gonna take a while. Okay, so now it's installed, and the installation was successful. Let's click on close, and now that we're done with that, what I'm gonna do next is, well, first of all, I'm gonna open my browser again over here. Alright, I'm gonna full screen it real quick. So now that we're done with installing that, we're gonna install Visual Studio Code next, which is the file thing I told you about. So you can see over here that's kind of like a file. So you can write your code and execute it once you've written the whole thing. But it's different for the shell. Now, how is the shell different exactly? I'm sure you're wondering. Well, we're just about to find out. So, alright, I opened my files over here. It should be in download somewhere, maybe. Oh, okay, it's on my desktop over here. So, I can open it. Alright. I can go into applications, and in our my applications, it should probably show up somewhere. And there you go. It says Python 3.5 over here. As you can see, I already have Python 3.8, the latest version installed over here. And I'm just going to do Python 3.5 for this demonstration here. And over here, okay, so what do you need to do over here? Now, forget all of these files over here because they're not important, and if you mess something up, then it's going to be a problem. So just open the Python launcher over here, and just click on OK. Okay, now over here, this is some important stuff, and for beginners, this will probably be kind of confusing. So I'm just gonna walk you through what you're supposed to do. So first of all, over here, you should choose Python script. If you choose GUI, then or bytecode, it'll be some problems. So just choose Python script. In the interpreter, this is just where it'll store itself. So because if you have any older versions in the same directory, click on this, but I don't, so I'm just gonna leave it, whatever. And then you have you have options over here, right? And I prefer that you don't do anything over here, alright? And this is automatically going to generate a command line command for actually installing Python itself. So I don't recommend you tamper with any of this stuff if you don't know what you're doing exactly. So alright, once we're done with this, we should be able to proceed over here, okay? And you can see that there's a command line code over here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just copy that really quick, and I'm gonna probably minimize this little, just so it fits into screen. All right. And now that we're done with this, it generated this command. So you just have to do the settings over here, and it'll generate the command line command over here, right? Now what you're supposed to do is you can just exit it normally. And then this ideally over here, I'm just gonna show you what that is really quick. It's loading currently, and you can see that the Python shell is opened up. Okay, yeah, you can see exactly what I'm seeing, so I'm gonna full screen this. So this is the final Python shell installed over here. Now I'm just gonna set this up a little. Okay, you should be able to see the whole thing right now. So this is how it works over here. I have Python 3.5.0, so this is what it shows. And that initial setting I told you about with the command line, that's the command line option if you're familiar with it. Otherwise, you can just open the IDLE directly and you can use this. And also what you can do is over here I have this this over here, okay, there we go. You can just save it over here. I'm gonna quit the Python launcher for now, but you can save the IDLE to your dock like that, so that it'll always be there. Anyway, so let's get into writing a simple Python code, and I'm just gonna print hello world on the screen. Alright, and as you can see, I just wrote this one line of code over here. Okay, for some reason it doesn't allow me to select it, but whatever. Okay, there we go. It's kind of buggy actually. So the thing is that in this print function over here, this thing over here is the print function that I wrote that prints hello world on screen. But this function has an output. As you can see, the output's right here is this hello world, the whole thing. And the thing is that as soon as I wrote the command, it immediately printed it out as soon as I pressed enter. So that's how the shell works. But if you give the example of, let's say, Visual Studio Code, so this over here, you have to make the file first, and then as you're writing the code, you can execute it. So it's all gonna execute together, whatever is in this file over here. So that's kind of how Python works, really, and it's pretty interesting how you can use the shell, and you can also use the IDLE. Both of them are completely different, and I recommend using the shell, this one, for the small code that you want to test out, so like 2 or 3 lines, so you can test them out one by one. Otherwise, I prefer that you use Visual Studio Code. So let's get into installing Visual Studio Code over here. Let me just close this IDE real quick. Also, another cool thing you can do with the IDLE, if you just press exit and then 2 brackets like that, and if you click on enter, then it's automatically just kills the program, so you can just click on OK and boom, it's dead. Okay, so now let's install Visual Studio Code. So this is probably going to take a while, and because it's a very heavy application, make sure you have some storage for it, about a few GBs I recommend, it depends. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to download for Mac. Now, unlike Python over here, we do not need to we don't have like any problems with this over here. The reason is because this version of VS Code basically works with most macOS versions. So if I go into /downloads, you can see that the Mac version works with macOS 10.10 plus. I have 10.11, so even the latest version of Visual Studio Code should work just fine. So I'm gonna click on this over here, and it should start downloading, as you can see. So if you have a version older than 10.10, then you can download an older version, or if you have anything newer than that, then you can just download it normally from here. So I'm just gonna wait for this to install. My internet isn't the best, so usually these files on other computers will install in like 2 seconds, but for me it takes like 2 minutes. Not much of a difference, but it makes a difference when you have to install 10 to 15 gigabyte files, because I do that often. Anyways, so it's almost done over here. And the cool thing about VS Code is that you can insert different programming language extensions as you need them. That's the cool thing about it. And it automatically updates to the latest version of Python. So the Mac OS version or whatever doesn't even matter. It just depends on the VS Code version you have. So it's just extracting over here. I'm pretty sure you can't see this because it's on my other screen. Okay, it's here now, so I'm just gonna bring this here on the screen. I'm gonna close that, and okay, and I'm gonna open yes here. Right, okay, so you can probably see this over here, Visual Studio Code. So I'm gonna open it up real quick, double click, And now Visual Studio Code is just verifying real quick. And once this is done, it should open up with the installation. So I'm just gonna show you guys how to do that real quick. Although keep in mind that Visual Studio Code is a pretty heavy application, whether you install it on Windows or Mac OS or any other version of Mac OS, because it has a lot of stuff in it. So keep in mind it's gonna take a while. Also, one more thing about Visual Studio Code. I'm not sure again if this is an installer or the direct app, but it doesn't install as a package or DMG file. Just so you know, it installs as the direct installer or the direct application. Again, I'm not sure what's gonna happen over here. So this may happen over here, where it may not be able to verify it, and I have my settings to where if it can't verify it, it won't like shoot out a warning or something, or just not allow it. So just so you know, you may face problems like that. So this is Visual Studio. It installs the application directly, which is good. No installers and stuff. It's just 85 MBs and you're done. You can start. So what you have to do over here to get started is you can make a folder, and inside those folders you can keep files, or you can just directly create a new file, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call it test. Okay, and since we want to make it a Python file, I'm gonna write .py. You have to write the extension of the code file that you're putting at the end. So if you're using a Python file, put .py at the end. If you're using a C++ file, so .cpp, and other examples as well. So I'm just gonna enter that test.py, and now that that's done, it should open it up. Although I don't see why it isn't. Okay, I'll try that again then. Maybe enter doesn't actually work. Alright. Okay, Cheyenne, this whole part over here, like this isn't working for some reason, so just cut it out, okay? I'm just gonna continue from when it actually opens, because this is causing some problems for some reason. Okay, I'm continuing now, so don't cut this part out. Okay, so now it's opened over here. Now what we can do is we can click on new file. We can click on this text editor over here. So text editor built in. Click on that. And then over here, what you're supposed to do is before you actually start writing any code, what I recommend is, because if we have the print function, for example, it's just gonna work like normal text. Get what I'm saying? So print hello world. It just looks like normal text. What's going on here? Why isn't there any like colorful stuff and stuff like that? Oh, okay, you can't actually see the screen properly. Hold on a second. There we go. And so what you have to do over here is just click on save. Okay, and when you click on save, rename it first of all. So I'm just gonna rename it as test.py. Be very okay, that's a tongue twister. Be careful about how you save it. So there are two things you can do. Either you can select all files over here and you can write the extension of the programming language you're using. So in this case it's Python, so I can write .py and it will automatically save as a Python file. Or I can do it without the extension and select Python from over here. So there's Python right here, so I can select Python, and it automatically goes to GYP. That's another extension of Python, and that's why I recommend doing it from format, because again it does it according to the Mac OS versions and stuff you have. So anyways, regardless of that, let me just save it on desktop and save. So now you can see that everything got different. What's going on here? The color changes automatically, just like it does in other programming editors, because you saved it as a Python file. So now that's how it interprets it as well. So now what you can actually do is, if you click on this over here, you can run and debug a file. Okay, so you can do that, and you can also run this file itself over here as well. So this is basically how you write files over here using Visual Studio Code. And we are not going to be using Visual Studio or the shell for our thing over here. We're not going to be using that. We're going to be using something a little different. It's actually personally my most favorite method. Reason being that it's very extremely easy to do, and I'm just gonna execute this first for showing you. So because this is a Python file, you have to install its proper extension. So what happens in normal programming IDEs and stuff, that you have to go and install everything properly, the compiler, the interpreter. It gets super complex. Look how many programming languages and stuff this supports. Python is right at the top over here, so you can just click on that over here and click on install. You can see it's installing over here. So once this is done, you can run your file over there, your Python file over there, and you can install C++ over here. You can install C hash, you can install Java, you can install some other stuff that I don't know exists, and there's a lot of options for this. Actually, it's a very like huge editor and stuff. There are 19,751 options, so you can pretty much just get any language you want over here. I'm pretty sure they have SQL too. If you don't know what that is, that's a SQL or a query language. It's very popular. So you can see that this has been installed now. So if I go back to run over here, if I go back to my files actually, so extension Python is being installed, and over here if I go on run, you can see that this is now highlighted, so I can now run and debug it. So if I click on this button over here, it says debug configuration. So Flask and Pyramid and Django, you if you know what these are, then that's good. Otherwise you don't need to know about them. There's pandas as well and other stuff. So because this is a plain Python file, you can just click on Python file, and then it normally executes. This is the bash terminal, and this is where the output's loaded. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly run and debug again. I'm gonna put it to Python file. This first initial loading was just, you know, a load up, and now you can see that it shows this weird line, py launcher, and then it prints the output, hello world, just like it did in the previous one. So you can write tons of lines of code. So for example, if I print hello world, print hello fans, and then if I write print hello, just hello normally, and then if I run and debug it now using Python file, there are three outputs together. But what would have happened in the shell is that once you wrote this and press enter, it would execute this line separately. Then you would have to write this line and execute it separately. But over here, you can execute everything together, and the outputs also come together. So that's basically the difference over here, and that's how we install Visual Studio Code, like a beginner's intro to how you actually use it. This video actually ended up being pretty long, but I mean, macOS is pretty complex. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and also mention if this helped you or not, because this took a while to make this video, because it did. Anyways, guys, so thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.